Next we're on to the underside of the shell, and we're still staying with the darker green colour. This is made in very much the same way as the top of the shell to start with. So if you make your magic circle, which I'm sure you're getting quite well practiced at by now, under the first, grab the second, twist, put up that second one and pull it through. You're going to put 6 double crochets into your magic circle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pull your magic circle closed. I tend to not pull it completely tight on the first time. Put your stitch marker in. My nails are too long for this today. And then you're going to increase each stitch. Go to your first one. Remember, that's always the hardest one to get into, the first one. You're going to put 2 in there. 1, 2. Go to the next one. 1, 2. Keep on going round. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and then we're back round to the stitch marker. So we'll take that out. One, 2. And pull your magic circle nice firmly closed again. Put that stitch marker in, and we're now on to round 3, which is where we go up to 18 stitches, following a simple repeat. Double crochet, increase stitch. So that's your 2 in 1. Double crochet, increase stitch. Continue that repeat all the way around, and when you get to the stitch marker, that should be an increased stitch. We're now on to round 4, which is where we go up to 24 stitches. Double crochet, double crochet, increase. Double crochet, double crochet, increase, and continue that all the way around, and when you get to your stitch marker, that should be your increased stitch, and I'll meet you around when you finish this one. And now we're on to round 5, where we're increasing up to 30 stitches. So again, a very similar repeat. Double crochet, double crochet, and then a third double crochet, and then your increased stitch this time. Complete this round, remembering that your stitch marker will be the last one where your increase is, and I'll meet you back at the end of the round. And now we're on to round 6, and this time we're increasing up to 36 stitches. So as we've done before, it's 4 double crochet, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then your increased stitch, your 2 in 1, 1, 2. Again, follow that repeat round. Your stitch marker will be your increased stitch. And we're now increasing, we're going on to row 7, where we're increasing up to 42 stitches. So again, as before, a similar repeat. This time it's 5 double crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then your next one is your increased stitch. So 1, 2 in the same. Again, follow that repeat all the way around. Your stitch marker will be your increased stitch. So we're now up to round 8, where we're going to be increasing up to 48 stitches. So once again, it's a very similar repeat, but this time it's 6 double crochet and 1 increase. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 double crochet, and then your increase stitch, your 2 in 1. Now repeat that all the way around, 6 double crochet and an increase stitch, and remember your stitch marker will be your increase stitch. And we're now on to round 9, where we're increasing up to 54 stitches. So again, very similar repeat, but this time it's 7 double crochet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then the next one is your increase stitch, so your 2 in 1. So again, 7 double crochet, increase stitch, repeat that all the way around until you get to your stitch marker, which again should be your increase stitch. And we're now up to round 10, where we're now increasing up to 60 stitches. So again, a similar repeat, 8 double crochet and an increase. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and an increase stitch, 1, 2 in the same. So repeat that all the way around, 8 double crochet and an increase stitch. And remember your increase stitch will be, your last one will be on your stitch marker. We're now going to go on to round 11, which is the final increase round on this one, and you're increasing up to 66 stitches. So this time you're going to do 9 double crochet and then an increase. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then your increase stitch, your 2 in 1. Again, repeat this all the way around. When you get to your stitch marker, that will be your last stitch increase. Okay, so now this bottom part of the shell is finished, you can just do a slip stitch into the next stitch, and then I would always chain one just to make sure it gets nice and tight at the end and won't come undone. And you're going to need quite a long tail for sewing. I've suggested 1 metre. This should be plenty, just to give you enough to sew in, but I would make sure that you have got a nice long tail at the end before you snip it off. And then you will just need to, where you've got the loop here, just pull that end all the way through. Okay, and then pull it tight. The last thing that you need to crochet is the eyes. So this is where you'll need to get your black yarn to start with. And again, you're going to make a magic circle. It's quite hard working with black yarn, it's quite difficult to see the stitches, but thankfully you've only got to do 6 in it. So do your magic circle. I'm going to put 6 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then pull your magic circle closed, and you're going to slip stitch into the first stitch. Remember, that's always the hardest one to get your crochet hook into. So that's just yarn over and pull it through. Again, chain 1 and you can just snip that off. Next, you're going to need some white yarn to go around the outside of the eye, and this time you're going to make a slip knot. Okay, so you take the end of your yarn and you're going to drape it the other way this time over your finger, and then come back. So this is the loose end here. Bring the other end back over again, so you end up with 2 loops on your finger, and then just pull that second loop over the first, and that gives you a loop that you can put your crochet hook into. And when you pull the end, it pulls it tight. Okay, and you're going to go into the stitch, the last stitch that you had with the black yarn, and then just pull your yarn through. This attaches it. Then if you chain 1, that's the first stitch, that counts as the first stitch. Then do a second double crochet into that same stitch, because this time you're going to put 2 double crochets into each stitch all the way around. You might find you've got a little bit of a bobble when you finished off that yarn. Just ignore that and carry on into the next stitch, and you're going to put 2 double crochets again, 1, 2, and work your way around. I haven't used a stitch marker because with different coloured yarn you can see where one ends and the next one begins. But you will end up with 12 stitches all the way around here. So 2 in each one. All the way around to the beginning. And then just where you made that chain at the beginning, you can put your hook in and do a slip stitch to join it. Chain 1 and finish off, and just leave enough to sew that on, so just a small amount for sewing in, and pull that through, that loop through. Pull the black tight just so you close off the middle of the eye. Now you need to make 2 of those because obviously your turtle will need 2 eyes, so rewind the video and you can go and make another one of those. Okay, so now you should have all of your pieces made. For all of the pieces except the bottom of the shell and the eyes, you'll need to sew in all the ends of yarn. So in order to do that, you just thread it onto your needle, and then you're just going to work your needle into the stitches back and forth a couple of times, and that will just stop this from coming undone. So you don't want to put it too tight because it will change the shape of it. And then you can snip that off. Now, I would recommend keeping these for a bit because they're going to help you to line them up once you've done that. So all of your light green ones, sew in the ends for all of those, and the top of the shell, I mean, you can leave that one, you can sew it in if you want, but sew in this end one here. Once you've done that, I'll show you how to put everything together. Okay, so now you're on to sewing up your turtle. I've just turned the shell, this is the bottom of the shell, and it's upside down, so I'm looking at the inside of it. And I just place all of the different things on. So I place the tail first, where at the end where I finished, because I'm going to sew that one first. The head opposite, and you want your head to be sort of pointing upwards, because this is like you're looking at the inside of the turtle. And then the 2 little legs each side, and if if you sew them so that the curved bits face each other, you get quite a nice sort of shape for your legs. Now it doesn't matter, you know, how far in or out you sew them, just try and keep them all the same. Now this is what I use the little ends of the yarn for. If you've got safety pins, use safety pins, but if you haven't got safety pins at home, I've just placed these where I want them to go, and then in the first stitch that it's going to go in, I've just threaded a bit of yarn through. And I've done that for, that's the first one of this leg, that's the first one of this leg, that's the first one of the head, that's the first one of this leg, and then this one's going to go around here. So in order to do that, I decide which stitch is going to be the first one. It'll be this one here. Put my crochet hook into it and just grip hold of one end of the yarn and pull it through. And that just means I've got a bit of a marker as to where I'm sewing, because as I pick this up, they're all going to fall out of place. So then I know what I'm going to sew in each place. Now, as you're sewing, you're going to be sewing through 3 things at once. Okay, so you'll be sewing through the bottom of the shell, through whatever is there, or there might not be anything in that place, and then through the top as well. So just literally going to sew, and you've got quite a long tail to do this, so you will need to pull it through each time, but you need to sew through all 3, and you sew through this sort of line that you can see there. Okay, so you're sewing through all 3 things together. Now this yarn won't show because it's the outside bits are both the dark green colour anyway. But just make sure that each time you're doing it, you're catching through all 3 things and pulling it tight. As you sew round, add each limb as you get to it. And then when you get towards the end, that's when you can add all of your toy stuffing. And I would just add the rest of the toy stuffing, get it all in there and make sure it's a nice fat little turtle. Okay, so then once you've gone all the way around, all of your pieces will be sewn together and you'll have your turtle. Okay, so I'll let you do that. Sew all the way around, adding each piece as you go, and your turtle should be complete. So just make sure you've added all of your toy stuffing before you finish. You only need a small gap to add that through, and then once you are finished and you've got back round to the start, just tie off your wool. Just do a loop and then thread it back through just to do a knot. And then we do what's called losing the yarn tail within the toy. I'll just do one more knot. And you just, with your needle, take it through into the toy and just come back out in any other place, doesn't matter where you come out. Make sure it's not caught round the tail. And you can do this a couple of times, but you just go back in where you came out and then come out in another place. And it just means that inside, the end of this is getting all sort of caught up with the toy stuffing and won't come undone. And once you've done that a couple of times, you can just snip it off. And if you give it a little bit of a wiggle, you just lose the end of it, so it's caught inside. And the last thing to do is to sew the eyes on. Now I actually haven't cut off any of this yarn yet because I use the black as a kind of holder. So if I just I've threaded both of the black ends. Try and get them both on here. And then obviously you sort of roughly place where you want your eye to go. And I'm just going to push my needle through to the other side. It's not coming. What have I done? So now all that's left is to sew on your eyes. Now, if you I haven't cut any of the black off yet, so if you just use one of the yarn tails for the black to hold it in place, so just put it in the rough area of where you want it to be and pull that through. Take the other one through as well, just to get it out of the way, because then we can lose those inside as well. Pull it out in the same place as the other one. Then you can use the white to actually sew it in position. And once you've done that, do the same as you did with the yarn tail on the body, just lose it inside and then snip it off when you're ready. And then your turtle will be completely finished. So well done.